This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we continue our senior salutes with the football team. Senior captain Connor Hunt and head coach Malik Hall join us to look back on the last 4 years. That's coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates football class of 2021 is in an awkward spot. Some may be returning this fall to take advantage of their extra year of eligibility granted by the NCAA. But we don't know yet who that may be. Many will graduate and move on from Bates. One of those graduating this spring is senior captain Connor Hunt, who helped lead the Bobcats this fall despite no games being played. Hunt joins the Bobcast as we salute the class of 21 Bates football players. Take us back to when you were in high school. What made Bates the place for you when you're looking for schools and where to continue your football career?
Right. Well, thank you for having me. I would say that Bates, it really came down to, I always wanted to be a college football player. So that's kind of where that started. Since I was little, since I started playing football since kindergarten, first grade. And then for Bates, especially, it really came down to that it was one of the NESCACs. It was a great school. That was a big part of my process. I really was geared towards playing the NESCAC. I loved the academics behind that and of those institutions. And I would say that for Bates, especially when I came on campus, I just loved the feel, the atmosphere, the people. I fell in love. So I fell in love with the program. I fell in love with campus. And then, of course, the great school. And I think all those things kind of came together, and I just fell in love with it.
Your first year, you did play in 8 games, had 3 tackles there against Williams, played some against Wesley. And also, what was it like breaking into college football? Looking back, what were some adjustments you had to make from high school?
Well, yeah. It's college football is definitely faster. So now instead of playing against 18-year-olds as a freshman coming in, you're now playing against 22-year-olds. And so I think it was the speed and the size of the game. I remember my first game getting in the first game Amherst. That's the first kind of taste I had. My eyes were definitely kind of open wide. It was just fast. They were bigger. And then also all the different coverages that we have on the defense, and we had multiple different coverages for every different scenario. High school, we had a little bit of that, but of course it's a little more simplified. And so it was just the speed of the game was something that you had to get adjusted to really quickly. But it was exciting. As a freshman coming in, it was incredibly exciting and a privilege.
I know in high school you competed in track and field and lacrosse also, but what made football your favorite sport in your opinion?
It always was. I grew up in Georgia. I think that's probably a big part of it. Up until high school, from kindergarten to 8th grade. And so, I mean, you just fall in love with the game. So I've always had this. I played a lot of different sports growing up, and especially in high school. But football was always just my favorite. And so, for recruiting, I always knew that was the sport I wanted to do. There was no hesitation in my mind.
So sophomore year was an interesting year, right? First of all,
very interesting.
Yeah. So you have a coaching change. Malik
Right.
Hall comes in, and Malik Hall and our previous head coach, Mark Harriman, maybe slightly different personalities, perhaps. And
Right.
then you are going to be the starter, right? You're starting out there game 1 against Amherst, and you get injured. Take me through that. I mean, how did you battle through that sophomore year, kind of thinking you were going to be playing a lot, and then unfortunately not being able to play really?
Right. Well, the coaching change was exciting. It was definitely exciting. I mean, Coach Hall, he just brings so much energy. The coaches, they came in and they just had that crazy amount of drive and energy that just really was super exciting for all the players, and we were ecstatic for it. And so going in the first game as the starter there was definitely some pressure because now it's the first impressions, first time you get to play in the field with the coaches, and you want to do the very best you can. So going in was definitely some pressure. So we got on the field, and about the third quarter, I broke my foot, and I was having a good game up until then. So there was definitely some devastation, some disappointment from that. But since the rest of the season, it was a little tougher, a lot of adversity, kind of the mental battle you have to play from being a starter and having a good game to now being on the sidelines for 7 weeks, basically, essentially the whole season. And so at that time, you really just have to kind of keep your mind in the right place. Know that it's for the whole time from sophomore year across to the off season, I always had the idea in my head that I have to be I want to get back to being a starter. I want to get back on the field playing with the guys. And that was what basically drove me the entire time. it was just the idea that when my time comes again, I want to do the very best I can to get in the same spot and to be a starter and play.
How are you trying to help, maybe even though you weren't able to play? Were you helping out with like film stuff, or how did that kind of go?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was yeah, a lot of film. When you have the crutches in the boot, you're usually the film person. So I was filming, trying to give support whenever I could. I mean, really, yeah, really anything I could in the meetings, being there, trying to help. I was still a sophomore, so still underclass, but I was still trying to do anything I could to be a part of it because you miss being out there, and so you just try to do everything you can to kind of stay focused, keep your mind right, and then support the team in any way as possible. So yeah, a lot of film.
Junior year, it all kind of comes together for you. Take me through how you got back on the field and what that season was like for you, especially the final 2 games, as the program still is on a 2-game winning streak, even at this
Yeah, so the off season, it was going into the summer. I just was doing everything from working out to running to going into the season. I just had one goal, and that was to become a starter again. And so it was kind of a culmination of all the months in the off season. And so I knew I just wanted to be back on the field. So really, I just did everything I could, tried to play the very best I could. One of the things I love the most is the strategy behind the game. So all the play calls, and I kind of obsess over those. And so I really try to do the best I can physically and on the mental side of the game. And so, yeah, luckily, with the grace of God, it all came together really well. And so I was really happy for the stats and how our defense really came together.
And then take me through the Bowdoin and Hamilton games, because the Hamilton game in particular, you had a couple of tackles for loss, and it was the biggest comeback for the program in 50 years. I mean, at that time, you did not know it possibly for popular final games, but in the end, it was obviously a dramatic comeback. What do you remember about that game?
Right. Well, for the Bowdoin game, the night game, it was the atmosphere behind it. It was something that was incredibly special. So we had the night game. The students and the fans and their parents were there. And everything came together. Our defense just did incredibly well. And so does our offense was putting up big points. Our defense was just 3 and outs. And it really just came, and we were having fun. It was just, we were having a good time, having fun together, supporting each other when we make really big plays. And so that was just, and having the students rush the field at the very end, that was something that I know all of us, no matter what grade you are, will remember the rest of your lives, the rest of the time. And then going in the Hamilton game off that was so it was a good week of practice, very good week of practice. So we get in the game and we go down, right? So we're down at halftime pretty big. And so the guys weren't discouraged. They weren't necessarily frantic or panicked. So we came out, and next thing, a couple big plays, and now we're in the game. And the huge momentum shift going in at halftime. So once that, a couple big plays, huge momentum shift, and then our defense is going 3 and outs. Our offense, was scoring big, and everything about that game. It was freezing cold, as it always is during the Hamilton last game. I mean, you take the 8-9 hour drive out there, but it was something special for sure. I mean, having to come back and everything was clicking on both sides. And then it was, it was just fun. We were all playing exciting. There was no worry about what was going to happen. And then we ended up closing the game off. And for the juniors, who would have thought that was the last game for most of everyone? You didn't know at the time. So you leave the field and, you're expecting next season to come. But it was, looking back, it was an amazing game, amazing comeback for the program. I know the coaches, the parents, the players were incredibly happy with it.
And then this year, you're one of the captains. When did you find out you were going to be one of the captains?
It was right. So the season gets canceled, and then once we're on campus, that's when they that decision came out. And again, I was incredibly honored to be a captain for the Bobcats, and it was I was incredibly honored, and I was excited just to help try to lead the guys during a very unprecedented time, any way I could.
Yeah. So how did you take the approach this fall? You have practices. They're obviously not typical practices, perhaps. You're one of the captains. You have a leadership role. What was your approach?
Yeah, it was definitely, so it was unexpected. You kind of learn to deal with these things. I would say that it really is about helping, motivate and teach and lead the guys during this time. So, we can't play, but I can still try to, be there for every practice, every meeting, help motivate them. And I mean, they were motivated. They did an amazing job. I'm super proud of all the guys. And they did just, for the quarantine and the school and not having a season, they came out and just exceeded all of the expectations that I think that the coaches and the players had. So that was fantastic. I would say that, and now as a senior, especially with the younger guys, I kind of went into a teaching role, and that was so I loved to kind of be with the younger guys coming in, all the different grades, and try to help give them any bit of knowledge that I had about the game, about what it's like on the field as coming from junior year as a starter. And so that's the kind of role I had to kind of fit myself into, because of course we're not walking out and playing at all. So it was amazing to see the guys with all the different restrictions we had to come out and really just be with each other. And so, especially with the restrictions and all the different things we had to deal with, that time, the football practice was just a good time to hang out with the guys, to be around everyone. It was special. Those couple of practices were very special.
Excellent. And then kind of the class of 2021 in general, from a football perspective, what was that group like? What was that dynamic like over these past few years?
Very close. Yeah, our class is incredibly close. I mean, from the very start, those are great guys. I mean, those are guys that we're going to be friends with forever. So that's what makes football or sports, especially Bates in general, very unique, because I mean, the guys were just so with each other. And so that was great, having all the guys there for support all around, and great players, better guys. And so it was special for sure.
Any stories that stand out that kind of embody what these guys are like? For
the community aspect, I think the guys, how we always have those tailgates at the end of the games. And so that's, I think, some of the best parts of, I mean, because you're there supporting we wake up in the morning and it's 5:30 and you wake up and you're there, and everyone's, and it's, you're tired, but everyone's there and they're focused and they're ready to go, and they're ready to, and our class did a great job at leading, even though we were juniors at the time, coming into it, they were incredible leaders, mentoring everyone, and great players, and then coming this season. But yeah, it was just the morning wake ups, and they were just there, ready to learn, ready to get after it. So that was great to see. And then for the tailgates, I think part of the community aspect is that the parents, the players are there. So after the games, everyone's together. Everyone's, the whole class. There's no individual. I mean, we're all just one big group of guys, 25 deep, and it's really special when those kind of moments you see everyone just together and supporting one another and just having a great time.
Excellent. So from an academic perspective, you're a history major, right?
I am East Asian history.
Great. How did you end up choosing that major, and what have been some impactful classes you've taken at Bates during your time?
Well, originally I came in thinking about being a politics major, and I took one class of politics and realized that wasn't for me. I took one class with it, and it didn't quite go the way I wanted to go. And so I always loved history. I always had. That was kind of my main subject in high school that I just fell in love with. And I took one class with Joe Hall, and right away it was by far my favorite class. He's an amazing professor, Andrew Baker, Wes Cheney, so just to name a few. And I took one class and I fell in love with it. And so then from that point, I just geared fully towards history. And every class, I'm excited to learn, excited to, it's so interesting. And the professors make it, they make it amazing. From being there to help support you to giving great lectures. So I loved history, and so I kind of felt that. And then East Asian kind of came from my family background, where my grandfather lived in India as a defense attaché. So I always was kind of fascinated with Asia. And so from there, I took a couple classes with Wes Cheney, and the rest was history.
Excellent. Excellent. So looking at the football program kind of going forward, as you look at the future of the program, how do you, the underclassmen, how do you see this program kind of growing going forward?
I think they will do really well. They have a great class. The class beneath us right now, they'll be the seniors, and they're fantastic. They're a great group of guys, great leadership as well. Quinn Woods, Mike Bowman, other captains. They are going to be cement a really good place for the program. This was kind of the year that everyone was gearing up for a big exciting season. So of course that couldn't happen. However, the younger guys now, upperclassmen, they were unfazed with it. They took the reins, and they were just completely motivated and geared towards having a great year. So it's gonna be very exciting. I'm very excited next year to watch the guys, if it's live stream or in person. But and the coaches are excited too. A great group of coaches, and so it's going to be very exciting for everyone to watch.
The NCAA did grant everyone like a free year of eligibility and stuff. And it's tougher at this kind of level because there's no grad program. Did you even consider that, or was that not something that really kind of fit in with what you wanted to do, I guess?
I did consider it for a while. We had a lot of talk to my family. So it was kind of the whole winter, the winter while I was home, it was a lot of thinking about that. And I was talking with the coaches back and forth. and they were great, supporting me either way. I mean, the coach, it was amazing because they were there and said, hey, if you want to come back, that'd be awesome. If you don't, we can help you look for maybe a grad assistant in the football role, or looking just to help any way we can. And so they were fantastic. That was amazing. But at the end of the day, I think that my decision came down not to come back because of pursuing graduate opportunities. And so just the way they kind of fell in with my with the family talks, that was the best opportunity for me. I'm definitely gonna miss the guys and miss playing. So that's gonna be a little tough, but this is the kind of how it turned out.
Gotcha. Do you plan on being a grad assistant somewhere next year, or do you plan on sticking with working in football for a little bit, or what are your thoughts on that?
I would love that. I would definitely love it. I think at this point, because it kind of came a little bit later during the time for kind of the graduate opportunities as a grad assistant. So I'm either hoping that maybe something will come along, or if next year, because Coach Hall was great with helping me with that, and so if that could kind of happen, that would be a dream. I mean, I've loved football since I was little, and if I was to be able to be a football coach at a high level, that would be more than a dream come true. It would mean everything.
Awesome. And then kind of when you look back on your Bates experience, what really stands out to you? What do you think you'll be remembering in 10, 20 years looking back?
Just the little things. Not only being a part of a great program, being a part of a great school, the campus, the community itself is something that you'll always cherish, and it's an honor to be a part of. I think being a captain during this time, you can't forget this season, but it's the little things during the year. It's the waking up early. It's the bus rides to the away games with the guys, the hotel visits. It's all the little things that you miss, that you look back on, and even the conditioning sessions where it's kind of a grind going through it, but you look back on it and you kind of miss those moments with everyone. And so, they're just a great group of guys, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out or the direction that we're going. And I know the guys, the younger class, it's going to be exciting to watch them. So I'll be rooting for them and cheering them on all the way. And besides that, it was just cherished and honored.
Connor Hunt, senior captain of Bates football. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Head coach Malik Hall salutes all the Bobcat seniors and gives his thoughts on the 4 who remained on the active roster this fall, practicing with the rest of the squad. These seniors, class of 2021, they were sophomores when you first arrived. How have you seen that class grow, and how they handle kind of the weird situation we had their senior year?
Man, first off, shout out to your title, the Senior Salutes. Love it. Big fan. Man, coming in, I think the unfortunate part about it all is those guys weren't able to get that last one in. And, the pandemic, I think everyone understands it. That's in the back of my mind. Man, if those kids, because those are the guys, those are the players, those are the student athletes that we came in on a fire drill almost. We got here in July, they got here in August. Hey, I'm the new coach. And so that group of guys being sophomores at the time, they lost the coach that recruited them. They lost the coaches that they played for. And now all of a sudden they have to make a real structural change for the next 2 years. The juniors and the seniors, they have to make change, but there's, the senior class was the senior year, and the junior class, they're juniors. And that was a very small class, unfortunately. And so for them, it's kind of hey, we just go follow through and play the rest out. But for that sophomore class, that was a struggle for them to not even get a chance to play it all out. And because that class was so big, when we got here, that was the biggest class on the team that matched our senior class at the time at 22. So you figure our seniors, it was 22 of them and 22 sophomores. That's a great number, knowing that they have been playing since sophomores and now they're going to be seniors with 2 years of experience. They've seen everything the NESCAC has to offer. They've been in our offense and defensive systems for 2 straight years. This year, or the pandemic year, should have been the culminating year where the Bobcat Nation and the NESCAC could have said, hey, the Bobcats they're different. And it would have been because of that sophomore class and staying committed all the way through.
Speaking of that, Connor Hunt, your senior captain, Let's start with him in terms of individuals on this team. A leader, a guy who was starting as a sophomore, but got injured game 1 against Amherst, but bounced back his junior year. What can you say about what Connor Hunt has meant to the program?
Oh man, I love Connor Hunt. It's listen, I love story time here, so I'll make them as fast as I can. Connor Hunt, when I got here, I called him every safety on the roster but him. I could not figure out how to get his name right. And the Amherst game, 2 safeties got hurt. Connor goes in the game. He makes 4 straight plays. And the next day, he said, "It's all good, coach. I had to give you a reason to remember my name." And I spoke to Connor just last week, and we reflected on that. And, it was definitely not personal. I couldn't remember his name. I was trying to hold 60 names all in 7 days. But for that to be the start of our story and the finish of our story is that he finished as a captain here. That's something to be proud of, something I'm very proud of. And when all things were pointed in a direction that it was going to be harder, it wasn't going to be the same, like he had a heck of a first game and gets hurt and then has to come back, not a starter, but then to still bring that same level of execution. And, the safeties are the brain of our defense. And so he did a lot. He proved himself. He's had a lot of great plays. Unfortunately, those plays happened before he was a senior, and but they still stick in my head.
Absolutely. Patrick Whalen, a 3-time NESCAC all-academic selection. You asked him to move from linebacker to fullback in 2019, played in 7 games that year. What can you say about, I believe you call him Hoss, right? Yeah, Hoss.
For the first 4 years, I thought Hoss's name was like Hoss. No one calls him Patrick. Everyone called him Hoss. And Hoss, quick story. Hoss, every time someone mentions his name, everyone yells, "Speech, speech, speech." Hoss is probably the smartest guy on our team, like not even close. And it's been said that I think he has a photographic memory. And so every chance I get, I'll be walking by him, in Commons, and I'll throw him a quiz, a pop question, and see if he gets it. He nails it every time. And if he gets it, he has to ask me one. And obviously I lose quite a bit. But my record right now with Hoss is like 3-13. So I'm coming up.
Excellent. Christian Sanfilippo, a guy who you really trusted in those goal line situations down the red zone. Tell us about, this running back and what he's meant.
Man, Christian Sanfilippo, man. Christian is a very passionate, very humble, and very, very hardworking young man. This was a very difficult year for him. It was difficult for all of them. But, shout out to the Tufts game. He had 3 touchdowns. Like I'm not sure. And I remember the next day I said, man, I'm not sure if that's a record here, but in the NFL, that's a hat trick on every level. And you did it. You had 3 touchdowns in 1 game. And so I doubled down and told him, and look, that's encouraging for everyone that's in front of you blocking. That's encouraging for Coach Patterson for every play he calls, that he can give the ball to you and you can get it done. And lo and behold, he had to start our last 2 games in the backfield, and we were able to go back to back in those games. So another kid who really made a lot of headway and made a lot of gains, and again just not having that season to just cap it off. It hurts, man. And for Sam and for Christian, which we call Baby Rocky, he goes about it like that. I mean, he works his tail off. And I remember talking to him over the break about not overworking. right? Take a minute and breathe and relax because we don't know what's going to happen. And man, it's tough. I love Christian. I love all these guys, man. And as I talk and reflect on them, it's unfortunate because it brings some hard thoughts to mind.
Certainly. Well, Anthony Costa, senior defensive back, really a nose for the ball, had a lot of interceptions, especially in 2018. He's already declared, I think, on a comment on an Instagram page, he's coming back. Everyone gets an extra year of eligibility, but Anthony Costa on the roster this year, senior as well. Tell us about him.
AC, man. AC, again, another guy. Shout out to Springfield, Massachusetts, Western Mass. He was third string when we got here as the safeties. He and another safety got hurt. One of the seniors got hurt. Actually, I think it was Joe Frake. And he never looked back. I think his first year playing, which as a sophomore, I think he had 5 interceptions that year. I think he had 1 for a touchdown versus Trinity. He should have taken another pick to a touchdown versus Tufts. He got shoestring tackled. But man, talk about a kid who just has like you said, a nose for the ball and not afraid to play what he sees. For AC to come on as the third string safety and almost make all conference, it speaks to the level of grit that he has. And it speaks to, shout out to Coach Harriman and the staff before we got here, because it also speaks to the stewardship of the program and the athletes that he was bringing in. Though it may not have ever resulted in raw victories, I've certainly been able to say I benefited from the student athletes he recruited.
And then obviously we're in kind of a weird time right now, but you have other class members of 2021 who may be 2022 in the fall. We'll wait and see, I guess. But that's all up in the air to be determined. Hopefully we will have a season next fall. I mean, assuming that we do, what are you most looking forward to in terms of getting back out there on the field finally?
We don't know what's going to happen. You're absolutely right. Football is so community. It feels almost, it feels disconnected. We feel disconnected right now. Our first team meeting. That's the meeting everyone can't wait for. Right? Because for whatever is on the agenda is probably 10 minutes to address. It's being able to see the guys, hug the guys, crack jokes with the guys. Hey, what you up to? What was this? Like that casual flow of energy that football brings, it's hard to manufacture that. And it's hard to create that. It's something that just exists. And though Zoom keeps us connected, it doesn't keep us football connected. And I miss our football connection. I miss our football camaraderie. I miss our football way of living. And that is what I can't wait for. These guys are great guys because they have great support and families, and they attended a great institution that continue to help transform the way they think and the way they move. And the way they move, meaning kinetically and intellectually. And so I wish these guys a senior salute. When you come back, you'll come back to a harvest. You'll come back to a harvest from some seeds that you've planted with some sweat and some blood in your 4 years here. So I say thank you, and I wish you again the best.
Awesome. Malik Hall, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Until next time, guys, peace.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, we'll continue our senior salutes with the women's soccer program. That's next week on the Bates Bobcast. Right.